Hey everybody, welcome to Drive-Thru Review 493. Today we're going to take a look at Team Play. This is a new game from Schmidt-Spiel. Now if you're in Europe, you should be able to find this relatively easy, but if you are in the States, you can maybe find it through Amazon.com. It's a very simple card game, but as the name indicates, it's all about team play. It plays 3 to 6 players, and I'll just go ahead and say up front, I would really only play this with 4 or 6. There's not really a good reason to play it with 3 or 5, and I'll explain that. So let's jump into how the game actually works, and I'll review it. So here you can see all the components in the game. The rules do come in a variety of different languages. Here you've got the main set of cards here. These are red and blue, numbers 1 through 8. You'll be dealt these depending on your player order. So the first player will just get 1 card, and the next player 2, and then 3 and 3, and so on. But you've also got these scoring cards, and these are very important. These come in a variety of different shapes and sizes. Here you can see if you have 3 blue cards, 2 of the blue cards need to equal one of the other blue cards. So if you have that combination, you can score that. This is 3 of a kind, so 3 matching symbols, they got to be blue, so it's any 3 of a kind. This one, you can see the straight line, that means an even card. So 4 blue evens or 4 red evens for 4 points. This one can be 4 blue cards, 6, 7, or 8, and they've all got to be blue, and you get worth 5 points. So a variety of combinations. You got 3 different pairs, any color. These squiggly line is odd cards, so 1, 3, 5. So blues or reds there, and so on. There's just a variety of different sort of makeups these have. So here we've got a 4-player game, and team members will sit across from each other there. So starting with the start player, let's say this is the start player here. It's a few things you can do on your turn. Now you're always going to have a row of 3 cards that you can pull from in the display. You're going to have 1 goal in the center, and then 1 goal for each player. Now when you're dealt a goal, you can take a look at it and then decide not to use it and then take the next goal, but that's the one you're stuck with to use. Then on your turn, you can draw 2 cards. You can draw from the display here off the top of the deck. As soon as you draw a card, it's going to be replenished, and then you can try to complete either the public goal or your private goal. So actually in between card draws, you can draw 1 card, fulfill a goal, and then draw another card for your second card draw. Now when you fulfill a goal, let's say I've filled this full house here, and then I'll take and score it off to the side. We'll have a score pile that is shared between the teams, and then you take a new card, and then if you can choose to keep it or you can choose to discard it. If you choose to discard it, you just take another card, and then you're stuck with that one again. And the same if you score in the center as well. You can choose to replace the new card. And of course it is possible to score multiple goals. You could score the center one and your own, or maybe the one you just replaced, and so on. And part of the decision making is, okay, I draw 1 card, and then I score this one possibly, and then I get a chance to look at the next one, which might inform my second card draw. Now also, you can also pass 1 or 2 cards across the table to your opponent. Now you can't communicate with your opponent other than to ask them how many cards they have. Now at the beginning of your turn, if you have more than 6 cards, before you do anything, you have to discard down to 6 cards. But that's literally the game. You draw 2 cards and fulfill any goals that you have, and then maybe pass some cards to your opponent. Now, once a team as a whole has 8 goal cards that they've scored, let's say I was the player that triggered that, then each other player, including myself again, gets to take 1 turn, and then we're going to go ahead and count up the victory points on each team's victory point pile there. So you play to 8 goals, and then you look at the actual victory points on the cards, and then that is the game. Okay, so that is team play, and obviously as the name says, team play is really the best way to play it. I wouldn't play with 3 or 5. Definitely play this game with 4 or 6. Now if you do play it with 3 or 5, obviously there's no passing, there's no teams involved, and each player gets an extra goal card in front of them to satisfy. But at that point, it's just like barely a game, honestly. What really comes into play and what makes the game fun is the whole team aspect of passing. There's no communication except kind of through the passing. That sort of acts as your form of communication. And that is a great part of the game. Now, it looks really kind of basic on the surface, and it is, but the whole choosing of a goal and whether or not to keep the goal or replace it with something off the top of the deck is a big part of the game. Now, not all goals are made equally. Some of the goals are very easy to make, but they're not going to be worth as many points. And you can also look at, especially when you do the center goal that's public, you can also look at like what the other players have, or look how easy it is to complete that. You know, how many goals are they left to get to their 8 and so on, and kind of use that to inform your decision. And you do kind of learn, there's a good variety of goal cards here, and so you do kind of learn which ones are a little bit easier to make, and you're also watching which cards are being pulled. And the whole pulling of cards, yeah, you might try to pull cards for yourself and your opponent's goals, but you can see your teammate's goal, you can see your opponent's goals, so you can take cards and hopefully give yourself a little bit of wiggle room and sort of slow them down a little bit. And then it really comes into play when you take a card from somebody else's goal and then end up passing it to your opponent so they can use later, and so on. And so you want to be very smart about that. So it's a good kind of introductory game to something like maybe a Tichu or some other kind of team game like bridge, or something like that. But you get the real kind of cool team dynamics of it, and it feels kind of good when your opponent passes you some cards and he saw you take the 5 earlier, so he knows these are going to help you, and then you're scoring it because you're scoring them collectively. So you can really kind of bounce strategies and just like, you're going to be the goal scorer. I'm just going to feed you cards, and we'll try to grab that one in the middle and keep the other team away from that, or maybe put out a very difficult one so they're just locked into their horrible goals that they have, for their personal goals. So it's really, really fun. I definitely recommend picking this up if you can. Obviously if you're in Europe it's going to be easier, but you can see it from time to time on Amazon.com if you live in the States as well. So definitely take a look at this one and play it with teams. Thanks.